Hi Year 8, welcome back to Lesson 2 of our Weather and Climate unit. Today's lesson is called Why Does It Rain? So what I'd like you to do, once you've written down the title, is to look at the key terms and write down their meanings, as you will need these as we go through the lesson. So, first key term, precipitation. Now this means any form of water that falls from the sky. So it can be rain, the obvious one, snow, sleet, all of those things that fall from the sky. Convectional rainfall. Now, we looked at this in the last unit when we did ecosystems and the rainforest. So it is rainfall that is produced when warm air rises, cools and condenses, forming clouds and then rainfall. Frontal rainfall. This is when warm air meets cold air and rises because it is less dense. It cools, condenses, forming clouds, then precipitation. And finally, relief rainfall. Warm air is forced to rise as it meets a hill or mountain. It cools at high altitude, condenses and forms clouds, then precipitation. There we go. So write down those key terms, guys, and we'll move on. All right, guys, so here is our quiz. Now, these are some questions that we did last lesson. So I want you to just write down the answers as we've always been doing, and then pause the video, and then we'll look at the answers. Good luck. Okay, guys, well done. So get out your green pens and we'll do some corrections or give yourself a tick. So for the first one, the term for the average weather conditions over longer periods of time is known as climate. So higher latitudes experience colder climate. This is true. The lower the altitude, the colder it is. This is false. The sea cools down and warms up slower than the land, you should have written. Okay, coastal areas would be warmer than inland areas during the winter. This is true. And the term for the day-to-day conditions of the atmosphere is the weather. Excellent, well done. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to use this figure, this map, to describe how many hours of sunshine the UK gets per year. Okay, so as you see, figure 2 is a map to show the average annual sunshine hours across the UK. So that means how many hours of sunlight per year do different parts of the UK get. Now, if we have a look here, the question, it says, using figure 2, describe the distribution of sunshine hours across the UK. And we've got to use these 4 points here to get our full marks. The first one says general pattern. Okay, so it's asking you, is there a pattern of how much sunshine the UK gets? Can you see a pattern? Now with pattern, I mean, is it evenly spread out? Okay, so you can see straight away that there is not a pattern. Well, it's not even. As you can see here in the northwest, it's quite dark. The colour on the northwest of Scotland here is quite dark. And if we look at the key, it's showing that it's around 899 hours a year of sunshine. Seems quite a lot, but if we look down to the southeast then, around near London and Kent especially, we can see that it's a lot darker, and that colour there, if we look on the key, it represents 1,600 hours of sunshine a year, which is a lot more than up in the northwest of Scotland. So I can tell you straight away that the general pattern is not even. So what would I write then for this? I've got to write down the general pattern, the areas that have the most sunshine, well, we've noticed that down here. Can I use some figures? Yes, I can use the figures from the key there. And then the areas of low sunshine. Well, we've noticed that up in the northwest Scotland. Let's see what I wrote. So the general pattern is the average annual sunshine hours is not evenly distributed. Area of high sunshine? Well, the southeast and the south in general have a higher average sunshine hours. For example, these areas have 1600 hours or more. Areas of low sunshine hours, well, if we think of the northwest and up in Scotland, they have very low as well, and you can put down around 899 hours. Okay, so it's your go now. So it's the same sort of map, but this time it's showing the average rainfall annually. So how much rain do different parts of the UK get each year? And you can see here you've got a key, okay, that represents the colour of the map here. Now this is giving it the value in millimetres, as that's what we measure rainfall in. So how many millimetres of rain have fallen. So guys, same thing again, you follow those 4 points to answer your question. Give it a go, give yourself 4 minutes. Okay, so let's see how well you did. You can get your green pens out, guys, and we're correct as we go. So did you get that the average rainfall is not evenly distributed? It is not even. The northwest the west has the highest average rainfall. As you can see here, the bluer the colours, the more rain. Can you give some data for that? Well, yeah, the northwest has some areas with over 3,000 millimetres of rain a year. Areas of low rainfall, which is the southeast, so down here, for example, gets the least amount of rain a year. Can you try and think of some reasons why this happens? Why is there such a difference between the northwest and the southeast? Try and do that for the challenge. So, what are some reasons that we have such a lot of rain in the UK and different amounts of rain depending on location? Well, there are 3 types of rainfall that we need to know. First one is convectional rainfall. We looked at this when we learnt about the rainforest in our last unit of work. So convectional rainfall is all about the sun heating up the land and the air just above it, just above the land. So as it heats up the land, and it will obviously heat up the sea down here as well, once that heats up, the air will start to rise. As the air rises, it will take with it moisture as it evaporates any moisture on the land. As it goes up, as it rises, and we know this with altitude, as air rises, as it gets higher, it cools. So as it gets higher and higher up into the atmosphere, it will cool down. And then the water vapour that it is carrying, that's been evaporated, will slowly condense and form clouds. Okay. Now, as that cloud condenses further and gets heavier with all the water that it is carrying, it will end up raining. There we go. And then the water is put back onto the earth. And this process will happen all again. It would start again. So it's a continuous cycle of the sun heating up the land and the air, that air rising and evaporating some moisture. As it gets higher, it cools and condenses, it forms clouds, and then rain can happen. So again, if you might want to write this down, guys, I think it would be a really good idea if you made a quick sketch of each of these types of rainfall. Okay, so one more turn. The sun heats up the land and the air above it as the sun shines down on the land. This will heat up the air, and as warmer air is lighter, it starts to rise. And with it, it will take water with it, water vapour, as it evaporates the water. As it gets higher, it will start to cool, and condense into clouds. Then, as these clouds get heavier, the water vapour gets heavier and turns into water droplets, it will then release as rain. Right, here is the second type of rain that we get in the UK. It is called relief rainfall. Now, some of you might recognise the word relief. What do you think relief means? Well, as you can see, relief, if we look at figure 5, a relief map shows where the high land and the low land is. So relief means how high or low or flat the land is. So if we have a look at both of these figures, figure 3, which shows the average rainfall we get a year, and then figure 5, which shows where all the high land and the low land is. Can you see a link between them? So have a look here. I want you to describe the link between these two figures. So look at where the areas of the highest rainfall are compared to where the areas of the highest land is. Okay, give yourself a couple of minutes. Okay, so what you would have noticed is that where there are high land, or where there are the mountains of the UK, is where there is the most rain. Okay, so mountains technically make it rain. This is what we call relief rainfall. Now, it's all to do with the prevailing wind direction. So the direction the wind mainly blows in. So in this case, the same as the west of the UK, where all the mountains are, there is also sea surrounding us because we're an island. So the wind comes in from the west. This wind, the prevailing wind, comes in from the west and it's blowing over ocean. As it's blowing over the ocean, it's going to pick up moisture. So as it reaches land, the warm, moist air is forced to rise up over the high land here. So as it comes in from the west, it reaches these mountains, these high relief areas, and it can't go through it, so it has to go over it. And as it goes up, we know what happens here. As it rises, it will start to condense and form clouds. Now, these clouds condense further, get heavier, and then will rain on this side of the mountain. And then by the time the air starts to go over the top, it becomes warmer and will start to descend. All right, and as the air's going down, it doesn't collect moisture. Therefore, there will be no rain. So once again, the air is blown in from the west and it meets this high relief. The air rises and condenses to form rain clouds. This rain is then released on this side of the mountain, and we call this side the windward side, as that's the direction the wind is blowing in. And it rains. As the air goes over the top and starts to descend, we call this the leeward side of the mountain. And this is where no rain happens. So no rain happens here. And that's relief. Okay, so the last one we're going to look at is frontal rain. And this is when we get two fronts of air masses meeting. So we get warm air here meeting cold air. I'm going to do sort of, there we go, that's my icicle to show cold air. Okay, so as they meet, they kind of collide. And as warm air is lighter than cold air, it is forced up over it. It gets pushed up out of the way. And we know what happens as warm air rises. Yeah, it condenses to form clouds. And as it rises further, then you will find rain clouds, and rain. Yeah. So usually along the front, so the point where they meet, is where you get really heavy rain. So basically it's when warm air meets cold air. The warm air is forced up over the cold. It condenses to form clouds, and then it rains.
The human body needs it to stay hydrated and keep functioning. Water is an essential building block to life, and it comes to us from above. Rainwater fills streams, rivers, and lakes. It carries with it the potential for life.
Right, here is your extended writing task. I want you to explain the 3 causes of rainfall. As you can see, for each one you've got 7, 8, and 9 points to include in your writing. All right, so you have to use these points in your writing. Okay, and you have to use them in that order. You can look at the diagrams that you've drawn or the ones on here to help. Then I really want you to think about the challenge and give that a go. The challenge is thinking back to the relief map and rainfall map of the UK. Explain why the northwest and the west of the UK experience higher average annual rainfall. So which one are you looking at for the challenge question? Would it be rainfall 1, convectional, rainfall 2, relief, or rainfall 3, frontal? So let's have a look then at this example. Does this explanation meet the success criteria? Now I can tell straight away that this does not. It's not long enough. All right, guys, so you've got 3 types of rainfall to explain. And this doesn't look like it's answered all 3. But let's have a look. Relief rainfall happens when the prevailing winds blow into land. The air is forced to rise and begins to cool and condense. This causes rainfall on the approaching side of the mountain. The air then descends downhill, where it leaves a rain shadow. So, the first bit is correct, it's down to the prevailing wind. But they've missed some words out there. Yes, air rising, that's correct. Cools and condenses, correct. But what does it miss? What is it missing? Yep. Right, so this does not contain all the key words. So which ones have they missed out? Can you see? Once you know what to do, guys, here it is. Give it a go, good luck, and I'll see you next time.